5 is just relief at the fact that the Brazilians came to the Paralympics in great numbers. They filled most of the venues within the park, for example. They created an amazing atmosphere. I saw a lot of basketball during the Rio Paralympics, and particularly on the nights where the Brazilian team, either the men's or women's team, were playing. The noise was just staggering. And Daniel Diaz, I was in the aquatic centre for one of his 50-metre races, and the noise created when he won is the loudest noise I've ever heard at a sporting occasion ever. Anyway, it was really quite something. My moment number 4 of the Rio Paralympics was Great Britain's men's wheelchair basketball team winning bronze. They had played so well throughout the tournament, and in the basketball you get down to that bronze medal match, and the winners of that match win the bronze medal, as you might imagine, and the losers go home empty-handed. So there's huge pressure on that game, and one of the reasons I was particularly happy was that Simon Munn, who's a British player in his 7th Paralympics, which is mind-boggling. His first Paralympics was Barcelona '92. In his 7th Paralympics, he was able to leave Rio with that bronze medal in his hand, and I spoke to him after the match, and he was so emotional, so proud. It was just a great occasion for the whole team and all the British fans in the arena. My moment number 3 from the Paralympics is that I was lucky enough to go to the opening ceremony, which was just an incredible spectacle of colour and music and art and entertainment, special effects. If you remember, it made it look as though the swimmer Daniel Diaz was swimming across the floor of the arena. It was really, really spectacular. And then we came to that moment quite late on in the ceremony. I imagine a lot of people in Britain had gone to bed, because it must have been about sort of 1 o'clock in the morning by the time this happened. Marcia Malzar, who was a former Brazilian Paralympic athlete, it was her turn to carry the Olympic flame, or the Paralympic flame. And by this point, it was teeming with rain. The rain just came out of nowhere. And sadly, she slipped over with the torch as she was carrying it. And it was just one of those sort of, what's going to happen moments. The whole crowd just caught their breath. And then just an incredible, incredible moment where the whole crowd, something like 85,000 people in the Maracanã, all got to their feet and just made this just huge noise. And almost it felt lifted her back onto her feet, and she was given the flame back again, and against all the odds she finished her little moment with the flame and passed it on to the next person. And even now talking about it makes me feel quite emotional, because it was just, again, it was a moment that just summed up the Paralympics, the sort of never say die attitude, and if you get knocked down you get back up again, and phenomenal. My number 2 moment from the Rio Paralympics is Will Bailey winning gold for Great Britain in the table tennis, and one of the most remarkable celebrations I've seen in any sport. Bailey beat the Brazilian Israel Stroh, who had actually beaten him in the first group game, so it was a bit of a grudge match. Bailey won and celebrated by actually jumping onto the table tennis table, which I don't think I've ever seen before. And he jumped onto the table, arms aloft, responding to huge cheers from the crowd. And when he came off, the referee actually showed him a yellow card. You're not allowed to jump on a table, even though the match was over. And he responded to the referee by giving her a hug, and then he ran over to his coach and he jumped into his coach's arms. It was an incredible, incredible celebration, fantastic atmosphere in there. He had the support of all the rest of the table tennis squad. Ali Jawad was sat just in front of me. A few of the other British athletes from other sports had come over to watch, and it felt like London 2012 rather than Rio 2016. And so delighted for Will Bailey, given that he lost that gold medal match in London, and won it in Brazil. So fantastic for him, and quite a celebration. The standout moment for me from the Rio Paralympic Games came at the equestrian. I was there out at Diodora for one day watching the dressage. Lee Pearson was competing for Great Britain, and he actually came away with a silver medal on this particular day. And Pearson was beaten by an Austrian rider called Peppo Puk. And the moment is actually from the medal ceremony. Lee Pearson used his electric scooter to get up onto the podium to accept his silver medal. And then Peppo Puk, who I believe has quite severe cerebral palsy, uses a walking stick to walk, and you could see he's quite unstable on his feet even with the stick. and he slowly walked up to the top step, and when he got to the top step, he threw away his walking stick, and he did it in quite dramatic fashion so that everybody saw him do it. And he threw the stick away so that he could stand there unaided to receive his gold medal and listen to his anthem and see his flag being raised. And it just summed up the Paralympics to me. It was just a really emotional moment, sort of saying, you know, I've won this, I don't need this stick anymore for this couple of minutes. And even though he stood there, you know, a little bit wobbly, he stood there really proudly to receive that medal and hear his anthem. And yeah, it was a moment I'll never forget.